Transmission begins.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This is the Josh Tolley Show on the GCN Radio Network.
All right, we are talking to political commentator and author Dan Perkins, his book series, The Brotherhood of the Red Nile. Sir, before the break, you were referencing Valerie Jarrett and this idea that Obama's 30,000-strong coup army is a real thing. Can you kind of dig deeper into that? Why do we think this is real? What are they doing? And what's the end objective?
The end objective, according to the article in the Daily Mail, is that ex-President Obama wants to get Trump out of the White House, get him out of power because of basically two issues. He is concerned about Trump destroying his legacy, number one, and number two, he thinks that Mr. Trump is not good for the country. And so he has this, as most of your listeners will know, prior to being elected to the Illinois state legislature, his basically occupation was that of a community organizer. And so he created this network of people and turned them into his election campaign for both of his two presidential elections. He's now converted them into an organization to support his personal agenda, which is the eradication of Trump and his policy. And there are 30,000 members. So Valerie Jarrett, who worked with the president extensively on domestic and some foreign policy agenda, primarily domestic, is reported that she is moving into the new home about 2 miles away from the White House to act as a point person and a coordinator for this army to begin its attack against Trump and Trump's government. Now, she has to do that, and he has to do that from that house because the office that he's given as a retired president specifically has a prohibition of conducting any political activity. So he is on an agenda. He is on a mission to destroy Trump and the administration. Now, in the article that I wrote on sedition and treason, there are many, many examples, and I want to make it very clear that everything that I put in that article is indicated by the person who made the statement or the newspaper or magazine or radio or television show and who it was and what they said in their headlines, even to the point that I put down the typos that were in some of the headlines. It's a very, very scary story in the sense that when one begins to look at the pieces of the puzzle in one place, one can see a definite plan of at least subversion, if not treason, to try and overthrow the government. The beginning of the article has the public law of what is considered to be subversion or terrorism, and in addition, treason. And you will find by reading that section of the law, which is in the article, before you read the articles, you have to come away with the position that the Democratic leadership has joined with Obama to overthrow the government.
So let's say this is successful, an overthrow of the government. What would that actually look like? Would that make him be a lame duck president for the next 3.5 years, or is that something more sinister and severe?
They want him out now. They want him either to be impeached and tried and convicted and out, or put so much pressure on him that he actually resigns as president.
Do you think they would take it even another step further into a word that we don't want to mention?
You mean the article I wrote about whether or not the FBI can actually protect the president?
Right.
The answer to your question is fraud fraught with danger, as you implied the way you answered raised the question. Let me tell you that I believe the following. When I wrote the article about whether or not the FBI and the Secret Service could, in fact, protect the president, I had family members and advisors who said to me, "Don't write the article. Don't write it. You're gonna be accused of giving ideas to other people, and we don't want your reputation associated with that." I said, I think I got to write this article because I think the American people need to know what's going on. So at the end of the article, I said to people, go to the internet, go to Google, and do a search of assassination claims, charges against President Trump. At the time I wrote the article, there were 12,000 threats against President Trump. I have grave concern that as the rhetoric gets higher and higher, I don't know how old you are. I'm 72. I go back to the Kennedy administration, being involved in politics, when he was running for president. I have never seen so much anger, threats, abuse, personal assassination that I have seen against this man by the Democratic Party, all because they're unwilling to admit that they lost the election. I'm concerned.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm concerned that there will be people on the extreme left who will take that as a challenge to see if they can kill him.
So what about that to me is beyond alarming. But what's Obama's end game here? He can't return to power. Is he going to, I don't know, be kind of a shadow president, or is he looking for a higher office at the UN? Like, what's his goal if he's out of power anyway?
Well, again, great questions. If you have to replace the president in order to protect your legacy, which is one of the things that they're talking about why he is trying to get rid of Trump, he's going to have to decide whether or not there's going to have to be somebody else who's going to have to replace Mr. Trump, or is he going to subvert the Constitution and declare himself the leader of the United States? I know it sounds crazy, but you have to understand that in any room in the world over the last 8 years that President Barack Obama was in, he always believed he was the smartest person in the room.
No,
so
yeah.
his narcissism is well known. So whether it's the leader of the UN or whatever, he wouldn't be mobilizing this group of people if he didn't have an end game. And whether it's somebody else who's going to replace him, whether it's Hillary or I don't know who it's going to be, but he is clearly after Mr. Trump. He has got Mr. Trump and I think it's an appropriate use of the word, in the crosshairs. And whatever is necessary to get rid of him, he is willing to support whatever that is. What's going to happen after that, I don't know. But we are in an incredibly dangerous time in this country today.
And we
the
see
vast
that.
majority of people have no clue what's going on, Josh.
Yeah, we see that with almost two governments running on the inside, and it just kind of proves conspiracy theorists have been right for so long, that there's this other government that doesn't listen to the president. But do you think, and real quickly because we're running out of time, but do you think Trump is going to fight back and go after Obama and his minions?
Yes. And that's the problem.
Could this lead to civil war?
Could it lead to what?
Civil war.
I don't think it can, not in the traditional sense that we have armed conflict within the states, but I do believe it could lead to some very nasty fights in the streets and things like that, but not civil war. But there's going to be potentially an ever increasing level of violence in the country.
Could that lead to martial law?
Sure, it could. It's a possibility. I have to think about that for a while,
Sure.
but I haven't thought about it. But yes, it's certainly a possibility.
Well, Mr. Perkins, we're going to
These
have you
people are
back on
committed.
because
These are
I'm just plumb out of
absolutely
time.
committed to destroying him.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. We're going to have you back on.
Anytime. It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, folks, that does it for today. Whew, man, that could get freaky real fast, couldn't it? Prepare yourselves. Remember, no victim, no crime. Look into jury nullification. Today, tomorrow, and as always, my friends, may your path lead to heaven, and may freedom follow in your footsteps.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you loved what I had to say, then subscribe right here. If you hated what I had to say, subscribe right here. It's fun being mad on social media, isn't it? Either way, I'd love to hear from you. Send me an email right there.